Good. So let me start with my presentation, smartPCN and the key for standardized PCN management. So my name is Wolfgang Heinbach. I'm one of the partners, the founding partners of Syliom Consulting. So we are a company that support people in obsolescence management and also in particular in smart PCN introduction. I'm a board member of the COGD, the Component Obsolescence Group in Germany, and also the vice president of the International Institute of Obsolescence Management. Here's my agenda, the content by today. So what is the starting point? Why did we start to implement the smart PCN? Then I will talk what is really behind smart PCN, the applications and the use cases, the PCN PDN management based on smart PCN, and the standardization activities and outlook. How do we want to go further with smart PCN? So the starting point. I mean, most of you know the situation. We have a manufacturer, and those manufacturers, they send out information about semiconductor chips and semiconductor components, materials, spare parts, anything like this one. And they also submit change notification, and they submit PCN PDN, which means product discontinuation notifications. So we call them the PCN PDN, and they are sent to many other recipients. So then they do it by email or they distribute it on their website, and they provide it to producing companies, R&D organizations, and distributors. So it's one too many. And with an email, okay, it's good, you receive an email, but in many cases then it's not available for other people, or they post it on their website, but then you would have to look on their website to find out, okay, what are the changes, what are the discontinuations of this manufacturer. Now, on the other side, we have a lot of manufacturers and we have distributors. So all the information that is forwarded from the manufacturers to the distributors usually is sent out as many change and discontinuation notifications to one person. So let's call this person Paul or Anna or another name. And this is the poor person that gets all those PCNs. And we talk typically about 50 to more than 300 PCN, PDN per month. They are all in the different formats. You have a multiple reception of the same PCN because you get it directly from the manufacturers, but you get it also from one or several distributors. You have to do a manual processing of those. It's very slow, it's expensive, and in particular, error prone. So we have a high number of PCN and PDN to be processed, and the effort of the processing those different formats out of the received emails is within the receiving company. So this is expensive because it uses a lot of brain work from the people, and actually you could use that brain work or this brain capacity much better than reading and copying data out of the PCNs. And it's slow. It is really slow. So let's have a look there. Standardization is always the solution. Standardization is the solution when we have a lot of standards, and those standards are important because when we change information, when we exchange information between different parties, then we use HTML, we use XML, we use email, we use JPEG in order to provide this information. And of course, the question would be, well, when we have this already, when we know that standardization works, so why not for product change and discontinuation notifications? There is a JDEC standard for the product discontinuance, and this is not a digital data standard. This means it defines terms and information content for electronic product, but in its component, but all the other ones are really left out. So Smart PCN has been developed by the COGD, which is an IOM chapter, the Component Obsolescence Group in Germany, because there have been many people who really suffered about receiving so many PCNs, and they developed over many years the digital data standard for product change and discontinuation notification, and we call it Smart PCN. So this logo is protected by the COGD, If you want to use the logo, it's free. You don't have to pay anything for the logo, for the use of the logo, but it is recommended to register within the COGD. So when we talk about a standard and we have smartPCN, so what is basically behind it? First of all, smartPCN is a format and it's a data description. It is not a tool. And this is very important because when you have a tool, in most cases, you have to pay for a tool because somebody developed it and they maintain it, and therefore you have a piece of the software. smartPCN is not a tool. You can compare this, for example, for a JPEG format or also for as a PDF, and therefore PDF defines what must be inside the file so that this works, and smartPCN is the same. It defines the terms, the categories, and the data fields, and they are aligned to the obsolescence management standard, to IEC 62402 and other standards in that field. It is XML-based with file attachments. It is already a standard, so we have a standard VDMA standard. This comes from the German machinery industry, the VDMA 24903. Which is actually then the base for the IEC, because in the IEC 62402 as a new part 3, smartPCN will be part of the IEC 62402, and therefore we will get international, global standard, which can be used then by all the companies. So you can request from your suppliers that they provide you the PCNs in a smartPCN format. We expect that this standard will be available around 2025. It is already well proven with commercial applications, so I think you will see a couple of those by today. Just a moment, I see that Björn is in here and I have to change the status. It's royalty-free, free usage, including development of tools. So this format is published, and the use of the smartPCN logo requires a registration with the COGD. Good. So what is now behind this format? First of all, a smartPCN file is a zip file container. So we use that zip. We know that zip file container from the old days of computing, and it is one file that contains other files and folders in a kind of a compressed format. And what is the main part is an XML file. So there's an XML file in this file container inside, and this is a kind of a database file, and this contains the manufacturer data, the product and change categories, the item product data, lifecycle information descriptions, and free definable data containers. Now, XML is a standardized computer language which allows to very, very easily program a software that allows you to read in this information. And this means that all the data, all this information that we see here is available in a clear and well-structured, machine-readable language. That is the important point. But in many cases, this is not sufficient. So what you need is kind of attachments, because what you want to do is you have to attach documents like the original classic PCN tables, drawings, pictures, documents, any other kind of file that's important. And also you can include other smartPCN files as an attachment in this one, and you will see then the purpose for this later on. So the smartPCN is one file and includes all those different files, attachment files, as well as an XML file, which is a kind of a small database providing this information. The scope of smartPCN is not limited to any kind of electronics and so on. It is really designed for any communication of changes and discontinuation, like materials, components, products, physical, non-physical items, documents, software, data, services, resources, whatever you can think of. We have such a generic structure that you may be able to do this, and there are even some additional and more ideas what you can do with this format, because it has already those things. So for example, when we talk about any kind of machinery, of spare parts, when we talk about the maintenance manuals and spare parts for trains and other information that is necessary for the service providers. When we talk about documentation, bill of materials, and changes in particular to assemblies like that we have here, even when we talk about materials for aircrafts that may change, all of this can be covered by a smart PCN. And we have already a lot of applications where people exchange information about such type of products and really down to the components by smart PCN. And you will pretty much then see that also here in this webinar, what other companies do with it. So within one file, we have different items with different categories and different life cycles that can be mixed. All changes of a complex product are described in one data file. This is consistent, it's in generic section, and we have also some item-specific sections. Now let's have a look, and this is an example then from a tool. Let's have a look at how this looks like. So this is an example of a smart PCN, and every PCN looks the same. So there are different viewers on the market from different companies. Providing this, you can have even a look at the XML file. In this view, you see the PCN number, the title, the type. So this is a major PCN. The manufacturer in this example is Intel, and it has been issued in 2020. You have then a text with the PCN description, the change category. So those are the change categories that are defined in the Smart PCN standard. You have some information about the life cycle. Then a list of all the items that are in there. And I can tell you the largest PCN that I know of has about 80,000 part numbers in this list here. Then you see the item categories. All of them are active electronics. It's 1,841 components that are part of this one here. And you have also the attachments where the different attachments with information in here. So this actually what I have talked about. And that is important. Every PCN, PDN has the same look. I think when you read PCNs, you know they look all different. And even within the same company, there are different people writing PCNs, and those PCNs look differently. And we know this already. And so this is one of the big advantages. You can really teach people, say, look, this information you will find here, because all of this information is out of the XML file, and the different viewers then always provide the same view of a PCN. Now this is a PDN. For the PDN, we have the same fields. Interesting is now here the life cycle data, because you see end of sales, end of production, last time delivery. And even if you have components with different life cycle data, this table will provide you with the earliest and with the latest that you have for end of sales, for example, and all the information then here is in addition in the item section. So when we look at the item section, so this is basically the details of it. When you look at the item section, then you find every part number here. This one is a smaller one with 40 entries. You are able to filter, and so because it's all data, and then you see with different tabs here, you can just look, okay, this is a replacement. This is the replacement, the number of the replacement for a specific part for this part here. So this would be the replacement. All of this data is created automatically. No human being had been involved in creating this out of the Smart PCN. Of course, when you create a Smart PCN, you have, of course, to do that. Good. So the intention of Smart PCN is to start really with a seamless digital processing. So you have a Smart PCN, you have the XML, you have the attachments, and you feed this in a kind of an IT system, a database. And from there, you have access, workflows, organizations are able to access the information in a database. You are able to map a PCN to the different objects. So all the products that you may manufacture, for example. You can also do the life cycle management, setting alarms, and so on. All the processes that are involved in the PCN and PDN management, you can do this by accessing the IT system. You will get the information status. We have also functionality like enrichment that's in there. I will come to this later. in the IT system and you have the full documentation. So it allows you to create such systems, and it allows you to work with such systems, and basically you get rid of many Excel files and many server drives where you store this information, because then you have it in a database and you can process it in a database, and you will see this also from some examples then later on. Okay, so let's dive in some application and use cases. So we have the PCN PDN processing, we have lifecycle management, we have material changes, for example, documents and software, the exchange of them, enrichment of data, the exchange between different sites of a companies or even companies, the PCN PDN generation by a supplier or manufacturer, updates that are available for parts, for items, anything, and also kind of flexibility that is already built in the smartPCN standard. Let's start with the PCN PDN processing. So we have a smartPCN, and you can send the smartPCN via an email, also provide this via a database. So there are different approaches available here. So you have the XML file here within a receiving company. So this box is within a company, within the firewall of a company. So you get this information, you receive it, you can store it in a local database. And then, because everything is in here, you can start to do an automatic matching of the item numbers. So you can see, if you bring this together with the data of your ERP system, of the BOM data and the product data, you could really see, okay, which one fits. You can map it to your products to say, okay, this PCB here really is affected by a specific PCN. You can start analysis workflows. You can start do action workflows. Analysis workflows are to find out what is the impact. I mean, that's always important. What is the impact of a PCN? Do I have to change my product? Do I have to notice my customers and so on? And for the activities, for the action workflows, those questions are basically, do I have to store it? Do I have to put it on store? Or do I have to do some kind of rework or redesign of my products? And then finally, you are done. So that's the basics of PCN PDN processing. In one way or the other, this is every company that works with PCN. They use a kind of this workflow, this process here. When we talk about lifecycle management, you have several approaches here. So one is, of course, that you have all the dates about start of production, end of production, for example, the lifecycle data in here. There may be other approaches for the lifecycle management, like a kind of a lifecycle index. And this information is in here in the smartPCN. There are data fields available for this information, and this allows you automatically to read this data and to update the lifecycle data in your ERP system. So you use this for the communication to your manufacturers and customers, and you use the data to plan and update the lifecycle of your products and services. This is a very important information that is in here in the smartPCN, and this allows you to do an immediate update of lifecycle data directly from the data fields of a smartPCN record without any manual interaction. I think that's quite important. The same appears basically to material changes. We know that in particular now with all those REACH, ROS, and so on, the compliance on the material compliance, we need to update information about what are the materials, what are the substances that are part of a specific component or specific product. So we have a change type here, which is a material change. There are data containers available that allow material declaration. All the details of a material declaration, documents, data sheets, and so on, can be provided as attachments within a smartPCN. And this data gives you then much better insight of update of a material declaration automatically within your IT systems. And this allows you also to create the documents for the material declaration and also the material compliance for the experts. They can be reviewed within a company, and you also can find out, okay, is this a specific impact on the markets where you sell your products? And maybe are there further activities like registration at some agency and so on. It allows you the immediate identification of all the items and parts with a change of material composition. And all details are in the documents attached. So for example, there is an IEC 62474 or the IPC 1754 file. And if you provide those files to your customer, you just hang it in here as an attachment, and you have all the parts that fit to these declarations. All the parts then are in the XML files, and this allows your your customers to do an immediate evaluation of the documents and to link it to the products. The next has to do with the documents and the software. So for the documents and the software, you can also provide smartPCN for this one, for any kind of document changes, for example, manual changes or maintenance manuals, for example. That's a good example. And just put the new documents files in the attachment folder and provide what are the document numbers or software numbers, anything like this, in here in the XML file. And this provides immediately the information for the experts, because you have the documents for any purpose, software loads, procedures, drawings, config files, and so on. Everything can be communicated with a smartPCN. And those are some other use cases for document software, like for qualification, the manuals, maintenance, calibration, testing, update, disposal information. All kinds of these documents can be attached to some items, to objects, and can be communicated via smartPCN. Now, this is a very interesting thing you can do with a smartPCN, because you can do what we call enrichment. So because this is already a little database, you can add data and a content during processing. So when you receive a smartPCN, and this is used already in some companies, so you receive a smartPCN, and when people start working, they can store the documentation as well as additional information inside a smartPCN in addition to the original data. And then you can use this data down the process chain for further action without using an additional IT system. And also the data of the original data set can be modified for better internal processing. So we know companies, for example, they add to the PCN number, which is a kind of a data field, they add the information about their internal other database system and part numbering system in order to find very immediate and allow the people to access this. And there are a lot of other data fields that you can use. So you add additional data, additional documents, and you increase the contents of a smartPCN set inside a company. So that's important, inside a company, or you provide it, for example, to a customer to give them more information. Another one is the exchange between sites and systems, because this is a small and independent database package. The possibility you have is to send it from the company A to the company B. And because you have the free definable data containers, you can just add additional information in the smartPCN dataset. You are also able to say, well, this is now coming from my company. So you add to exchange just the information about from which company it is coming. And so you can go this workflow through with adding data, as in the slide before, between and to forward information between different companies or organizations within a company. Now, this application is about how to create the PCNs and PDNs. So you usually have a PLM system and smartPCN tools, and you just need some programming to create the XML file, and also to take the PDF file and other documentation that is already within your systems to include it into the data set with a kind of a product and business database, and also with the control by the product management in a company. And therefore, you are able to create the smartPCN dataset, and those can be also created with some commercial tools. An important thing is updates by manufacturers. So what we have in smartPCN is a mechanism, we call it revision number, because using the same item numbers but a higher revision number, updates can be easily identified and processed. So you have this again, so you change basically the content of an XML. You provide further information about change and discontinuation, and you declare it as a revision to an earlier PCN, and you just send it out to the customers, distributors, and data services provider. And this allows them to update their databases with this additional information. And this is, by the way, this is used in many cases. For example, when there's a PDN and some parts are declared as unavailable, and then you may have a lot of protest from the customers. So a company may take back the discontinuation and the end of life of some components, and this will, for example, this is also done by revisions. Now, the last point in this one is the flexibility with the data containers. This means the following. So on a PCN level as well as an item level, we have a data structure, and this data structure can contain any kind of other XML, of text, of JSON, of CSV files, whatever. And this structure can be used depending on an application or industry sector without the need to change the VDMA or the smartPCN format. So it's basically a kind of a free form container. We have already declared some keywords like e-class, BME cut, change, text, railway, avionic, and so on. So you can use that, but the format inside here is not standardized. So this is a kind of a free format in here, and therefore a specific group is able to define, okay, let's define a format for this one, how we use it, and then put it in a so-called subtype in this data container. Good. So I want to give you a very short example of a system that uses the smartPCN as the basic technology for the PCN and PDN management. And this is coming from the company. It's called Data Documentation Management, DDM. You will find it also under the name PCN Global in the internet. What the purpose of this company is to basically cover up, to basically bridge between the time where every manufacturer provides smartPCN and now where only a few have changed to provide smartPCN. So what they do is basically they collect all the information from manufacturers and distributors they can get hold of, and they put all this information into a database, which is called, in this case, PCN Global. But in addition, all the PCNs that are sent to a specific company, the customer of this database, they just send all the PCN, those classic PCNs, the typical emails where you have a PCN, they send it to PCN Global and they put it in the database, and therefore you are able to receive it back as a smartPCN dataset with the system which is called PCN Cockpit. And this is then the only inbox. So just forget about reading emails. There is no more reading of emails. You just receive everything with the PCN Cockpit. And the architecture is exactly as I've shown before. So the PCN Cockpit runs within a company's firewall with interfaces to the IT systems of the company. Because it's inside the firewall, it is easy to connect to ERP systems and BOM data and other product data systems. The system does every night an automatic matching of all the item numbers with all the PCNs that are in this database. As soon as you find, okay, this is one that I need, like a PCN inbox, then you download it into the internal database. So this internal database is not outside, it is really inside a company, and it contains then the XML, the PDF, and all the additional documents. And from there, you can use the system to map it with the products, like any kind of assembly, up to the final product. You can start analysis workflows with different recipients that they have to work on this PCN and to analyze the PCN, also then to define the action workflow, so what to do as outcome until finally everything is done. So the documentation is done, schedules are kept, and it's a drastic reduction of the effort that you need. And so finally, everybody is happy. And this is now one example from the company called Zollner. And Zollner is the #1 EMS manufacturer in Germany. It's #4 in Europe and 50 in the world. So this has been the data I found from 2021. And they started to use the PCN cockpit in 2021. And this is now published in their company magazine. I think it will be also available in English then further on. So this is a German text, unfortunately. But I think the interesting thing is this diagram that we see here. So in 2018, they processed 586 PCNs. In 2019, it had been already 2002 PCNs. In 2020, 2054, and this is the curve that shows you how much time they needed. So they needed at the beginning for this few PCNs, they needed 27 days to process a PCN. In 2019, it had been just 17 days. That then with maybe this little rise on, and maybe the PCNs had been much bigger, it increased to 21 days. And then I started to use smartPCN with the PCN cockpit, forwarding all the PCNs to PCN Global and receiving them in one system in a digital format. And immediately it gave them a benefit of 14 days, but for much more, for 2,800 PCNs. But now look at this. I mean, they are down to 4. They are down to 4 days because there had been new features, and they also included a better connection to their IT systems inside the company. And this allows them to process much more PCNs, 3,300 PCNs in just 4 days. And you will see it also from other companies. They use other systems, and their experience is exactly the same. So the whole throughput time, the whole time you need for processing a PCN drastically decreases when you use it, because you save a lot of time and you save a lot of effort because you get rid of all the manual processing of a PCN. So those are one of my last slides here, the standardization activities and outlook. So smartPCN is part of the current IEC 62402 standardization work. This obsolescence management is to be divided in 3 parts. We have part 1, this is the already existing standard that will be reworked as well. Part 2 is for all the models to estimate obsolescence costs, and the part 3 is for the PCN PDN as smartPCN, and this is based already on the existing standard VDMA 24903, and this is the reason why we will be able to provide this in a much shorter time than the other ones, in particular part 2, because there's so much available and so much has been already in standardization in Germany. So it is an excellent base to carry on there. But there are also new features in development by the smartPCN working group, for example, to get a better understanding of the material compliance. For example, we will include a skip reference number. So everybody who is familiar with the material compliance regulations in Europe, you have to provide a skip number, and the skip number gives you is a registration at the European Chemical Agency in a skip database, and skip means for substances of concern in products. And this allows or should allow basically then for recycling to find out what materials are in, what substances are in a product. And this is required by law for everybody that sells something in the European Union. And of course, there are a lot of changes. And now because we have smartPCN and it's just a reference number, it's just a kind of a link that you have to provide, you put it in a smartPCN datasets. Then we have developed a concept for revisions, a better concept how to deal with revisions of a PCN and a PDN. So that will be also part of this one. And then we have changes of bill of materials. That will, at least we will have a data field that tells a look for this product, there will be a changed bill of material, and then you will find the details in the documentation section. Then we have new change types that are in development, new item categories, and the inclusion of categorizing standards. So we will see how far we will get in this one. So the summary regarding smartPCN. smartPCN is a format. It has standardized data structures, terms, and categories. It is a description how to provide a digital form of a PCN and PDN through the whole supply chain. It is fully machine readable. Therefore, we have this XML portion in it. It's a free available standard. It allows you a significant increase of productivity inside your company. It's a substantial reduction of throughput time, and also it avoids all the errors by the manual processing. Typically, the administrative efforts are reduced by 90% with smartPCN-based tools, and there are many applications for the digital automated processing of PCN PDN already available. So this is the PDN standard smartPCN. Here's where all the pictures are from, and if you need some additional, oh, it's vice president, it's not president, I didn't change that one. Here you have then, and I will correct this, you will have contact and more information that you would like to do with all those websites. And now I think it's we can open the chat to see what kind of questions are there. Yeah, some of the bugs. You posted a Q&A question, Phil. Okay. So there's a question from Stuart. I believe there will be small changes. I do not expect that we will big changes on this one. So the main parts of the standard will remain. It will still be in XML format, and it will have the structure. I think when we change something, so we just will bring in some additional fields that may be optional. But I do not expect that the standard as it's by itself is changed. So we have no indication for this one. But of course, there are a lot of people that may be in the review. So Phil. So to answer the question of Phil, has any work been done on using smartPCN to manage the evidence needed for certification by analysis? I don't think so, but this could be an interesting additional application. And your remark is this can be a cost-effective way to ensure that a system, product, component is safe, complies with regulation, meets requirements, and so on, as it can often be done without a need for expensive physical testing. Yeah, so I think what is possible within smartPCN is to include any kind of qualification document. So there's a section within the smartPCN data set that allows you to add qualification documents and also to have these documents available. In the attachment section. We do not have up to now, we do not have any kind of security mechanism. The only mechanism that we have, or there is a mechanism inside that helps to find out whether you have a transmission error. So this is a question from Selina Reich. You mentioned that a PCN in a smartPCN format can be changed. Is there any protection that it can't be maliciously changed, pretending it would come in changed form from the manufacturer? You know, we have a lot of smart people, and smart people, of course, would like to send out wrong information. Because when you create a data set, of course, there's the possibility by any bad people to create a smart PCN and send them as they send an email to you and claim they are your bank. Yeah, because otherwise it would be necessary to have a kind of a digital like a certificate and things like this. That maybe that is included then later on. Up to now, the effort to include a certificate, a digital certificate, and also encryption, all things, is too much effort. So up to now, we did not find any I would say any approach that somebody has started to produce wrong smart PCNs. And of course, you have to check then what are your sources. So from which email is this coming? Or do you use a data provider? Data providers usually they check what are the sources, what is the contents, and they double check it, and they will find out usually quite fast that this is a kind of a counterfeit PCN. If you want to use, this is the from Sean Thomas, do you need a paid for service to use smartPCN? No, smartPCN is for free to use the format. You know, it's the same like you have a book. If you publish a book in PDF format, then you don't have to pay for the PDF format, but you have to pay for the book in the PDF. So there are companies, they have paid for services, so you can buy smartPCN datasets in order to get this information. There are manufacturers they issue smartPCN datasets for free because that's the service of a company, and there are companies they exchange, or basically they take the classic PCN and PDN and read them, process them, and build then a smartPCN out of it. The last question from Sigmar Miller: is there a viewer available for smartPCN XML format? Yes, it is. And you will find it here in the presentation. Here, for example, is one viewer, and also when you go to the smartPCN website, you will find another source of a viewer where you can view the XML file and all that, the whole content of a smartPCN dataset. So then, and some other questions. Will you share the slides? Yes, that had been provided in the beginning. The slides will be shared. We will also have a recording of the whole meeting. I hope it really works. So we have 2 points. We have the smart piece. We have the recording in Teams, and as a double check, there's also a second recording running. I hope it works as well here there. And so we will be open. So how many manufacturers are currently using smartPCN? Actually, not too much. And the reason why is the following. If there is no demand coming from those that receive the PCNs, why should the company change it? So we have a few companies, for example, Phoenix Contact. Phoenix Contact, they are a company. They issue smartPCN datasets automatically from their systems. There will be a presentation then later on. This is also one of the reasons why we say we need the global standardization. So, I mean, if you are maybe a Japanese or American company, and somebody tells you, oh, there's a standard in Germany, just use it and create and provide your PCNs in this format, I would say, what? I'm not interested in what the German's doing. So this is the reason why we have created, or why we are working towards the IEC standard. So in this case, we have a global standard, and there are, I would say, really mighty players in the United States. They really want to have the smart PCN globally standardized, because then they can write it in their specifications for all their suppliers and manufacturer. So they have to provide any change information and discontinuation information as a smart PCN dataset. And this is why we need this global standardization. So then there's a comment from Alstom. Alstom developed from Stuart Broadbent from Alstom, and just a moment. So Alstom developed a smart PCN database using the XSD definition file, and you will find this XSD definition file in the smartPCN website, so the smartpcn.org website. Then another question from Pavan Kumar from Quantron. Are you planning to show how to work with smartPCN in a live example? Is it possible to integrate the smartPCN with PLM and ERP tool? I would say yes to both. I mean, we do not show this live in this webinar. We wanted to show in this webinar in particular how companies work with it. There may be then later on or after the normal session, maybe if there's an interest, we can show a little bit how this works from the different providers. Good. So if there are no further questions, we are already late. I would like now to stop my presentation and to hand over to Martin Michalzin.